Now we're going to make a slightly bigger change to the game. We're going to replace our player character so that it kind of lines up with the visuals of the robot and the other characters, and so that we can go through the process of building a player where we can modify and change out those visuals pretty easily. So the first thing we're going to do is pull in the robot package. You should be able to download that right below. Download that down below. You get the idea. So grab the robot package and drag it into the project. This is another one of the packages just like the dog, except this time I just pre-organized it for you so that you don't have to watch me go through that process. Same exact thing though, just found the robot in my temporary project, and then I exported that to a robot project. By the way, when you're exporting things, you can also just select specific prefabs or objects, and that's what I did here. I just selected the effect and the robot and exported just those. So here you see I've got a robot, an explosion, and a blue bullet. Those are the ones that I'm going to use for my character so I can have a character that runs around and blasts back at these things. So let's hit import. And we should get our new character pulled in. I think it went so fast that I didn't even see it. All right, yep, we've got an explosion, a bullet here, and a robot here. So let's go to the scene view, and we're gonna go find the robot first. Before I actually pull anything into the scene view, let's just go double click on the robot and see what it looks like. So here it is. You can see we've got this little character with a weapon and antenna on its head, and well, it looks like a bunch of different little parts. It's built up of a bunch of pieces. I can turn the pieces on and off. You can see that this is not just a single sprite, it's actually just a full-on animated character. It's got a character controller here that is using that character controller that we saw before, and then it has some idle and jump and run and duck animations. They're not hooked up right now though, so if we go put them in game, we're not going to see any of that happening. Let's go take a look at the animations folder. I think that, oh, I'm already in it. See, we've got root dead, a duck, we've got a hurt, an idle, a jump, and 3 jumps, a run, and a shoot. So let's get this character hooked up. Let's grab the prefab in the prefabs folder for the robot, and we're going to make it a child of our player. So I'm going to drag it onto my player. So click and drop it right onto the player. Now you see I've got this giant robot sitting on top of this little tiny player. The first thing that I want to do is scale this robot character down because it's way too big. Now if I just go in and start modifying the pixels per unit, you saw what happens with the dog, the whole thing will fall apart. Instead, I can just scale this character right here to about 0.5 and 0.5. I'm going to move the position down, the Y position, just by holding, clicking, and dragging so that it lines up perfectly with the bottom, but it should be about -1. A -1 should line it up just about perfectly. I might have to move it up just a little bit though once I see the collider. Yeah, it looks like maybe it does need to go up just a tiny bit. Right about maybe like a -0.9 or 0.85. I mean, we'll see how it looks. Whoops, I meant 0.95. We'll see how it looks once it's animating though. So I'm going to go with a -0.95 and a 0.5 on the scale. Then we'll go back to the player. I'm just going to disable the sprite renderer. So the sprite renderer is not showing up. And right now the capsule collider doesn't actually align with my character. So I think I'll increase the size of that as well. Let's go find our capsule collider, and we're just going to grow this. So I'm thinking it's going to be closer to 2 meters tall and a 0. Yep, there we go. So that's about right. About 2 meters tall and a 0 on the offset, which, by the way, is about the size of a normal game character, at least in 3D games. I think that that looks good. I could probably extend out the X size, but I think I'll keep it tight like this for now. I'm going to save and then press play, and let's watch our robot run around. And theoretically, everything should still, for the most part, work except for animations and visuals, because we're no longer using that sprite renderer. We're no longer using this animator. Let's see. And yeah, our character is going to do whatever his default animations are. So I can run around, I can jump. I can see that my layer is a little bit off. Your layer could be completely off. We might have to adjust that before you can see it, but it looks like the character is partially working. This is nice. So I'm now ready to start setting it up so that it animates properly. Well, and to start fixing these layers. Let's finalize this by turning this into a prefab or updating this prefab and modifying the visual layers. So I'm going to go to the robot. I'm going to open up the prefab for the robot, this child prefab, and then we're going to find all of the sprite renderers in here. So I'm just going to scroll down and select this sprite renderer. I'm going to hold shift and hit the down arrow until I get something that's not a sprite renderer. So it looks like this hand is not a sprite renderer. So I'm just going to control click that off. Then I'm going to control click the rest of the way until I find things that are not sprite renderers. Those ones I'll just turn off. Oh, that hand is not a sprite renderer, but these children are. I'm going to find everything that has a sprite renderer. Looks like that's it. So everything except for these two hand objects. And then I'm going to change the layer to be our player layer instead of the default. I'm going to go back out of this prefab, save our robot prefab that's a child of our player prefab. Then I'm going to go to the player prefab, go to overrides, and we're going to apply these three things: that we've disabled the sprite renderer, we've modified the capsule collider, and we've added the robot child prefab. We'll hit apply, and then I'm going to save my scene and go to plastic and commit that we swapped the robot visuals. We haven't fixed the animations, but we've done the visuals. So they swapped robot visuals, not animations, and check in our changes.